Hello.
Don't
Good evening.
have anybody yet, so I'll just do a little bit of sharing, yeah? Hello?
Yeah. I'm going to open my screen up a touch as well. So I can see the comments just in case.
Take me a minute to do this now.
As soon as anyone comes in, give us a shout.
Oh, we do. We do have our local favourite here. Eric!
It's a fascinating one, this one. I don't know what you know about vampires, but if you've got any knowledge, let us know. Obviously, we'll add it to the show. But yeah, it's a fascinating. We'll give it a couple of minutes, see if anybody else joins us, and then I'll get cracking.
Yeah, we'll get cracking straight away. Okay, we're done. That's that one.
Right. For anyone listening, and you can always watch it on catch up, as I say. I think most of us audience watch it on catch up, but with it being Sunday probably. But anyway, the first reference to a vampire, and it wasn't even called a vampire as such, but it was way back in 1047. And it was an early reference to a vampire in Old Russia. First actual term vampire was written in 1725, so it's not that long ago. Evening Rita, scientific survey in the 1800s laid a foundation as to what they are and aren't, as in a vampire. So it could get these foundations were set basically quite late. People think that the term vampire goes back a long way. Well, what can we call them? Creatures of the night have been known since 1047, but as I said, the actual term vampire is a late addition. They were known as other things: night walkers, night crawlers, you name it. Zombies even.
Yeah,
Early
that's
vampires
right, yeah.
zombies. So that term's been around a long time. So 1725, in the borderlands of Germany, when they re-established further lands and annexed a lot of countries, there was a rumor of a creature that was terrorizing this particular area, and they went to investigate what these rumors were, and it was proper investigation. They took it seriously for the first time. I dare say these things had happened, but they kept it village-wide.
Yeah.
This is the first real account that something had happened, and officials were sent to investigate it. So they ended up exhuming a body, and it had these characteristic protruding fangs, shall we say. So that it was beheaded, a stone placed in the skull, in the mouth of the skull, and then cremated. Now, since we've had more scientific work done, and we've found out, what is it, Nettie, about these diseases?
Diseases, yeah. Yeah, there's actually a disease called Renfield syndrome, and it's an obsession with drinking blood. And over 50,000 people addicted to drinking blood have appeared in psychiatric literature from 1892 to 2010. And it was named after R.M. Renfield, Dracula's follower in the 1897 novel.
It's surprising. So you see, the thing is with vampirism, it's not just myth. Most people watch a film, interview with a vampire, early ones like what you're going to mention that one later. I'll not mention that one. But there's quite a few films that are quite famous, obviously.
Yeah, Dracula.
Dracula was the first character of a vampire.
Yeah.
So for the first time, a vampire was given a name, which was Dracula, which is fictitious. But it just shows how much of an impact vampirism had on the population, shall we say. So it was gaining momentum. Was it fiction? Was it all fiction? No, it was romanticized. It was there was myths around it, but it's also born in fact. These occurrences that I've already mentioned have got fact based. So this is why it started to take momentum. Later novels about Dracula it wasn't the first encounter on British soil. Bram Stoker penned Dracula. Again, romanticized it and put it in a location called Whitby on the east coast of England. But it wasn't the first account. That was the first account that took off through film more than anything.
Yeah, because the first literature was from John Pallados's short story of the vampire. It was actually a portrait of a predatory poet, and it was requested by Lord Byron.
Yeah. And it gave an account of an occultist baron, basically.
Yeah, that's right.
But then was later turned to a vampire, obviously, through literature. But again, it just shows how things are linked.
Yeah, I think the first film for that was Nosferatu in 1922.
Yeah, which
was based on the Dracula model.
Yeah, that first account, Polydorus's written work, was in 1819, as opposed to Bram Stoker's book and film, which came out in 1897.
Yeah.
So there's not that far between it, but it shows how it's continued. To this day, it's continued. By the way, the book and the act that Lord Byron did wasn't called a vampire VMPIE, IRE. It was with a Y, vampire with a Y, which is slightly different. But I suppose, again, it was the first account, really, the first written work. So maybe he made a pen mistake. You never know. Things like that.
You never know. I think the actual first film that it was called Dracula was 1931 Bela Lugosi.
Yeah. And again, these are all romanticized versions and penned accounts. So they've glorified what a vampire was and what a vampire did. It isn't born from myth. there is true accounts. In reality, like, let's have a look here, the Krogin or Groglin vampire from Cumbria. It's the first account of a vampire transforming from a human form to a creature form. And the eyewitness account said that this creature, well, this vampire, turned to something that resembled a serpent's head and tail, but the feet and body of a cockerel.
Yeah.
Which is odd, but it was seen by more than one person. So that's your first transforming account. But later accounts in another village in North Yorkshire and Cumbria, which is called Renwick, the creature was described as being more like a bat. Now, but what is interesting, again, through myth and reality, is it coincides with Darwin's discovery of a vampire bat.
Yeah.
So maybe people have woven that into thinking, well, if there is such a thing as a bat called a vampire bat, maybe that's what they transform into. So that's where it was born that vampires turned into bats.
Yeah, definitely. So do some. Nigel, how are you both doing today? We're doing well, Nigel.
Evening, Nigel. Yes,
Nicola said hello, everybody. Hello, Nicola.
Hey, Nicola.
We've got William. Greetings for the historical world. William.
Evening, William.
And
nice to see everybody.
Robert.
Hey, Robert, you managed to get here early. Yeah, we got quite a an unusual. Well, it's not unusual actually. I think I'm surprised we haven't seen more on this account of vampires. But tonight, what we're trying to establish is that Dracula and vampires per se are not myth. They're not born from myth. They're born from true accounts.
Yeah.
And it seems to be prevalent as well across Europe. And the story of the vampire, i.e. Dracula, it seems to coincide with it again because accounts came from Middle East, i.e. Prussia, Russia. Transylvania is the romanticized area.
Oh, yeah. Bulgaria as well, yeah.
Woven into the story of Vlad, the Impaler.
Yeah.
But it comes from Eastern Europe and it comes to this country quite late.
Yeah, it does.
So you think, now this is what I'm saying, so you think literature-wise and film-wise, it comes here quite late. But in reality, when you start to dig, there is accounts, as I said, there's that one from Cumbria, and quite a few, and North Yorkshire in particular. Now, it may have had some sway with Bram Stoker choosing Whitby as an atmospheric place, and North Yorkshire as well.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of cases around-ish that area. And I'm going to mention one soon, which is a fascinating case. And it came to its culmination in 2017. So how recent do you want that to be?
Yeah.
It's still existing today, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Of course it is, yeah. It's still there, yeah.
So, but,
I mean, there's one account of one person who was actually in the historical records, been described as a vampire, and that was Joe Grando.
Right.
What is now, it was called Listria, which is now modern day Croatia, and he was born 1578 and died in 1656.
Yeah.
He's actually records as vampire.
Yeah. So that actually, just shows that these creatures were moving backwards and forwards, and still are moving backwards and forwards, because the account I'm going to give shortly comes from 1300s.
Yeah.
And right up to present day, practically. Even though this village is, well, in fact, I'm not going to say it just yet. No, I'm going to wait, because we've cracked on right through it. We're only 15 minutes in.
And I've got
So,
flow in
so, is there any of this audience? In fact, I've cracked on that much. I ain't even got a drink. Is there any of this audience know anything about vampirism?
Well, Robert says, yes, don't know what went wrong last time.
You were late. That's the way
late.
wrong. I think probably what it were, Robert, you were on as Friday time, which is an hour later. So I don't know what's happened to Ian, whether he's out busy or whatever. But is it only on the Sunday show? Sometimes he comes on, sometimes he don't. He's always there for Friday. Any questions, anybody?
Oh yeah, he was watching the other side. Sorry.
All right.
That's very true. At least he's honest.
Yeah. So that means he's only here because they ain't got one to need. That's not good, Robert.
Oh yeah, we have Gio Baez. I'm sorry if I've got it wrong. Greeting from Chile.
Ah, Chile. Now
Wow.
then.
That's a long way.
That would be interesting, because we've got no accounts whatsoever from that area.
No.
Do you have any accounts of vampires or living dead or zombies, as vampires were called before they were given a name? We'll give them a minute to answer. Yeah.
Yeah, they were classed as roaming dead things at one time, weren't they? That spreaded disease.
Yes, exactly. Well, it was classed as a disease, weren't it? Because it were affecting every bone.
He says lots of UFO sightings, don't know any vampire stories.
Oh well.
You'll have to come on when we do a UFO one.
Yeah, we do have them here as well. We do every subject under the sun, definitely. Yep. So you're welcome to join us. It's nice to see you anyway.
Yeah.
Did you just drop on us, or was you recommended? It's nice to know these things. It's just for our reference. As you've noticed, we always interact with us as audience. It's important to us. I mean, that's what we're here for, in my opinion. A blog's not a blog without an audience.
Oh, here we are. Tito Lasterius is the only Chilean vampire I have heard of. That's interesting, because it's something that we don't know and we can look up.
Yeah, exactly. That's fantastic. Thank you.
Love Brits, and I studied English in the UK for 1 year.
Oh, brilliant. Whereabouts? Let's see if you're anywhere near us, because our group does span the whole of the country. So,
if Robert, yes, Haiti, they have a lot of living dead people.
Yeah, in Haiti, yeah, definitely.
Oh, yeah, Brian, on you in Sheffield.
Wow.
Around corner from you.
Yeah. Gino De Campo. That's where he lives down anyway. But and he did a lot of studying there. But yeah, that's not far from me. I'm on 7 miles from Sheffield. So that's it.
Hallamuna.
Yeah, that's this side as well. It's close side to me. So yeah, about 7 miles away.
Yeah. Brilliant.
But yeah, it's a fascinating. I didn't realise until I started looking at vampirism, and it's it's fascinating, really, because, as I say, even though it's made itself into to film and literature and everything else, it is born, unlike a lot of people think, it's not myth. A lot of it is born from truth.
Oh yeah.
We're only finding a lot of these things out from graves and everything that are exhumed, and villagers being very, very superstitious, maybe, but the lengths that they went to stop these people rising, and this is where the story comes from in film, that anyone that were bitten by a vampire would later return after death as a vampire themselves. But they would claw the ways out of the coffins and everything else.
Yeah, but
This is why you find burials all over in these little villages where they've even gone to extent of putting metal bars. Now you get accounts. Don't get me wrong. You do get accounts later when they try to do away with superstition, that these bars were to stop grave robbers.
yeah.
Which is a good story, really. When if you don't want to disturb or frighten your parishioners, you're going to say, "Oh, we've just put bars over to stop grave robbers." But in reality, the original story was to stop these people rising from the grave. If you put bars there, they can't get out, can they? So
No. No.
don't matter how good you are, you're not going to get through an iron bar. You can't bite through that, can you? So
There would have been a lot of people as well.
Eh?
There would have been a lot of people as well. Because they didn't know, there was no medical knowledge, was there, at that time?
Well,
They
they
were
were,
ill,
but
went into a coma, and would have been buried alive.
yes, sometimes, possibly, yeah. If again, if
That's the reason for the bells, wasn't it? What they put in eventually.
if a vampire is real, then
Yeah,
yes.
you're not going to stop him.
Yes, obviously you're buried dead, but you're a living dead, like a zombie.
You're a living dead. Robert says all those witches sacrifices drinking chicken blood.
Yeah. Well, that's off on a tangent, isn't it? But surprisingly, in most vampire stories, for some strange reason, gypsies are involved.
Yeah.
In most films, there's usually a gypsy camp close by that, that's in on it. They know what's going on. Which always, again, back in the day, they were early forms of witches. They always had a healer in the clan, which later became called a witch. But they weren't called a witch in their own society.
No. It's
surprising.
outside, yeah.
But as I was saying, these burials were buried with respect as a vampire, because they would behead him, and in a lot of cases they would then exhume him later and burn them.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't settle, they couldn't rest, because obviously there were things still going off in a village. Because there's always one vampire seems to escape to carry on the tradition.
Oh yeah, always.
Yeah. So, but the other practice was to put a stone, quite a large stone, in the mouth of a suspected vampire, so that it couldn't bite down.
Yeah.
Let me see. I'll give it another 5 minutes, and then I'll go into the last portion. Yeah, which is really, really surprising. It fetches it full circle, because it goes mostly from the beginning, from the 1300s right up to 2017. And this place is immense. I've been to the place. I sensed a hell of a lot of things. I felt a lot of things, and I saw quite a lot of shadows. And I felt I was being watched the whole time I was there, when it left a certain time of night, which, again, you hear accounts of all these places that are frequented by vampires, they seem to all have a curfew. Later in literature and in film, it's usually gone midnight.
Yeah, always midnight. Yeah.
Yeah, but that is not in tradition and in truth the real time. The real time is when the sun sets. Soon as the sun is gone down, that's when these creatures are supposed to are said to roam the earth. And again, it does coincide with bats, because bats have a similar trait. They come out when the sun goes down, and they go back home when the sun rises, or just before the sun rises, which mimics vampires.
Yeah, and there is an actual a disease that I looked up as well, and it's called paraphyria. And what it is that people can't go out into the sunlight because they blister up.
Yes.
And the disease eats away at the gums and everything. So basically, everything goes back, and the teeth, so they always look like the teeth are popping out with fangs.
Yeah.
So can you imagine if you've seen somebody that with that disease in them days, and they couldn't come out because they blister in the sun? What are you going to think?
Well, I suppose again, it's interesting. It would be about the setting, really, because a similar disease called leprosy, which some kings have suffered with, Alexander the Great's era.
Yeah.
Can't remember the king, but the king of the time, he suffered from leprosy. Even though he was divine and people worshipped him and everything, he covered his face, he covered his head, and he covered his hands, because the disease is made worse by sunlight. So maybe it's a related condition. Who knows? I don't think there's any literature for that. But what's that? What's he saying?
Gio says, have you read about Donald Ullman? Spelling might be wrong. He had an odd experience near Whitby, and he was performed an exorcism on a child who was biting other children's necks.
No, I've not heard that one. But again,
interesting.
It's not uncommon, and this is, I suppose, a form. Now then, get this one. This will interest you. I suppose that's a form of hysteria, where something has been seen and they've got hysterical about it, in the historic manner of hystericism. They're affected by something they've seen. So if that child has seen a vampire film, and been affected by it, he's played that scenario through. The same thing happens with UFO sightings, if you know what I'm trying to say. One person sees something, and lo and behold, 100 people have seen the same thing, even though they haven't.
Yeah.
You know, so it's called a forgotten term, but it's something to do with being hysterical. That's the word, even though it doesn't sound correct. It is.
He also had a similar experience in Highgate Cemetery whilst visiting the tomb of Karl Marx.
Yeah. So there you go. Maybe I'm on to something there then.
And
because
then
like I said,
he says, years later, I read about the Highgate vampire. Yeah.
Right. I'm not familiar with that one either. So fantastic for you being here, because you're learning me things as well. Hopefully I'm sharing knowledge to you. But it's 4:30. So I will mention the place. For me, it's such an unbelievable place. I dropped on it. I do a lot of investigating. I'll just give you a little hint for anybody that doesn't know my background. I'm a paranormal investigator, amongst other things. 2 years ago, started blogging, and I've just gone from one extreme to other. But paranormal investigating is my forte. It's what I like to do. And I came across this village, because I just basically stick a pin in a map and go. And this place popped up. It sounded interesting. I was drawn to it. And it's a place called Warham Percy. It's in North Yorkshire, not too far from Thirsk, but it's an abandoned village. It was abandoned. The last resident left in the 1600s, but it was formed in the 1300s.
Yeah.
No industry really other than sheep. So obviously cottage industry grew up in this village. But in that era, sheep were worth more than people.
Yeah.
So that led to the official reason why this village was abandoned, or people reassigned, shall we say. You know, they were evicted basically from the village. But for nearly 200 years from its conception, it had a connection to vampires. And it persisted, even though it stayed local, because its locality even today is quite remote. There is nothing around it apart from this village. And back in the day, there was even less. So even today, from the car park, which is 3/4 of a mile away, that's how long you've got to walk to get down into the remains of the village. There's no houses standing apart from one municipal building and the church, which the roof's gone. There's one little roofed area at the back, and that's your refuge. And trust me, that is your refuge. Soon as that sun goes down, you feel oppressed. But it's so idyllic during the day. It's so idyllic. The interesting point about it is the only things that remain is the church and the graveyard. The graves are still perfect.
Right.
And there's still plenty of sheep about, and they are clipping the grass quite like it's being mowed professionally.
Mm.
But you don't see them.
So it's just weird, then, isn't it? It's just weird. Yeah.
Still persist today. You can see them on the hills.
Yeah.
And dotted about during the day. But as soon as that sun starts to go down, you can see them walking off. They're going as far away from that, which again, it does have an effect on your psyche.
Yeah, it would do, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Yeah,
Like, oh. Whoa.
It does go deathly quiet. There's no noise pollution, because as I said, the nearest road's 3/4 of a mile away.
Right, so it's actually in the middle of nowhere, then, isn't it?
It is in the middle of nowhere. And as I said, there's just one municipal building that they still use today for functions and everything. So that's eerie on itself, because it's not manned unless there's something going off.
Yeah.
So that building's empty, and the church is empty, and there's nothing else. The footings to the houses are gone. It's just like you can see an indentation type of thing of the footing where the cottages were, and the paths are still there, and then that's it. Just nothing. And this oppressive feeling, how can I explain it? It's like, as time goes on and the sun starts to go down, it's almost like you get a foreign effect of crickets and locusts and what are they called? Cicadas coming out. There's a slow hum rises, and you think, where's it coming from? There's no power lines, but that's the type of sound you're getting in your head. It's not going through your ears. This is a weird thing. It don't come through your ears. It like comes through your head. You can feel it. It's oppressive. But the latest survey, there was they started to exhume all the bodies from the churchyard, because there was no need for them to be there. So they redistributed them, obviously. And this is when they've come across mass graves, which there was no markers to whatsoever. So these bones in these pits, they're not mutilated. They're just charred, obviously. They're cremated. They're being burnt. And they found skulls from all age groups, children to adults. And a lot of them have got these telltale fangs.
Yeah.
And some of them have still got the stone in the mouth. So for me, they were exhumed a lot earlier. They were buried originally for me.
Then dug up and then
and they've gone back to sort of say, well, they're not come back after this if we burn them.
Yeah.
It's all conjecture, but that's the way I've read it anyway. But they did do other burials as well, and they did find these skeletons that have been decapitated and a stone placed in the mouth. And some of these graves have got remnants of bars round the grave. Again, now they say to stop grave robbers. But I mean, I can't see there being an industry for that in a rural village.
No,
there are no mad scientists and doctors about, so there's no reason for that.
It was only a little tiny place in the middle of nowhere. So where would you come to take them? No.
Exactly.
No.
But that last exhumation and study was done in 2017.
Wow. So it's not really that far back, is it, at all?
No, not at all. It's very, very, very recent. And as far as I'm aware, there's no other studies in country, in this country anyway. So what's Robert saying, sorry?
Robert says, here's a question. If someone drinks the blood of another person, will it kill them? If not the same blood type?
No.
No, because it's not getting into your system, is it?
Well, yeah, it is. Of course it is. But unless they're suffering with the disease, then no. Blood is actually very good for you. I mean, think about black pudding. What is black pudding? Well, what is black pudding? It's pig's blood, basically. Pig's blood and fat. That's all black pudding is. Mm-hmm. There's tribes in Africa.
Yeah, there is.
That they pierce the artery of a cow and fill a cup with blood, and then they'll just pinch the vein and it stops. Weird, that, isn't it?
Yeah, I've seen. Yeah, I've watched that on YouTube.
Then they go to the other side and milk it and put the milk into the cup with the blood, and that's a fantastic meal, and it's fresh. Now, it's good for you as long as the animal hasn't got any diseases. Of course, if it's suffering with TB, then that's again probably where a myth comes that it's going to kill you, because it will. It won't do it straight away, but it'll give you TB, and then you die from that. So you would die without a cure. You would die a lingering death, because TB is a long illness. It wastes you away, doesn't it? You start with coughing blood up and things like that. So again, you can see where that myth would come from.
Yeah.
But it's actually born from truth again.
I got one from Gio again. He literally lives at the top of a mountain and he's seen weird things up in the sky. Yeah, well, mountains are well known.
Well, exactly. And you see, I will have a story of UFOs and what have you, because I've got accounts as well. I've seen two things I can't explain. So I do believe. I am a believer. And I am going to say, yeah, I'm going off on a tangent, but it's like the community, like we've got paranormal so-called investigators that do it wrong, and they're a disgrace to our profession.
Yeah.
For me, unfortunately, the UFO community has got a hell of a lot of cranks in it, and they don't do the true UFO community any good, because it's these people that put fake accounts up and everything else, and it spoils it. It really does spoil it. At one time, people were so ignorant that they'd swallow it and think, oh, fantastic. But the world's getting smarter as a community, and we won't swallow it. People don't swallow it as much as they did. It's about time that sort of stuff were drummed out and left for real accounts. It's just deciding which is. What's Eric say?
He says you'll have to show him that village Brian.
I will. It's a fascinating place. It really is. There's a proper atmosphere to it. It's a proper. I wish the buildings, the village was still intact, because that would have more of an atmosphere and a feeling of true English heritage than a lot.
Yeah, didn't we talk about going and seeing that?
Yeah.
That was
We
definitely.
will, but I need that scooter.
Oh, bring the scooter.
Yeah.
Eric says, "Oh, he can see a night investigation coming when he gets here."
Oh yeah, it's well worth it. It's well worth it.
NGO. Lots
Yeah.
of nutters, I agree. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, Eric, you'd have to fetch your cross and your holy water and anything that you and garlic, munch on a garlic bulb, or a lot of people. I mean, that again is from a film quote, but in reality, any of the aliens will do. It's a deterrent. It's not a guarantee, but it is a deterrent. So onions will do just as good, which you can eat onions. Spanish onions are quite mild, and you can eat them like you can apples, some of them. And that's a good thing in a way. But in fact, yeah, we've still got 15 minutes. Right, I took them notes away now because they're done. But I've got an actual account where I found evidence of real vampires living in an area. I went to investigate a farmhouse that was abandoned, and it looked like they moved in a hurry. And they put a lot of the belongings in this barn. So there were a pool table, there were bags and bags and bags, and furniture and all sorts stored in this barn. I went to look at the house, and the house looked older and more abandoned than the barn did, which was very odd. I automatically, as soon as I got through that door, which were wide open, I didn't break in anywhere. I don't believe in breaking in anywhere.
No.
I walked in and went to bottom of the stairs. I looked up the stairs, and for a split second, my ankles went up back of my neck, and my ticker jumped, because I looked upstairs, and the cot loft, which is normally in farmhouses and houses in this country from that area, it's got a loft hatch.
Yeah.
And there was a piece of net curtain hanging and swaying from this Woo, I wonder what the hell it was. But then I'm thinking again, why would you have a piece of netting hanging from a cot loft? It was very, very odd. The dirt and soot that was on the walls suggested that place had been empty a long, long time, but I knew it hadn't, because I'd been past it a couple of months earlier and there were lights on.
Right.
In the house. Even though it's hard to explain, the lights weren't bright. They looked more like candlelight or an old lamp, you know. There's an atmosphere about places. Now, on investigation through this barn, there were some steps, some ladders went up into the loft of this barn through a loft hatch again. I went up and it was completely empty. It was devoid of everything apart from a loft arch that was to one side and a great big massive sleeper. So it was as if, and there were evidence that people had been sleeping in there, but it was secure, well secure. There were no windows big enough. There were just slits. You know, like old-fashioned arrow slits in a castle. Yeah. They were like that. So they weren't wide enough for anything human.
To get in or out. No.
Yeah. So it looked like they'd been put in this great big massive wooden sleeper of a hatch on a night to secure them in. Because there were candles about, there were evidence that there were a tarpaulin down on the floor and it were folded. You could see that it had been pulled out on a night for example. On leaving this building, again, it was an odd place. You've got to come into a little bit of through a great big double door from this barn onto a little grassed area. And then off that, you got some steps, but it was quite a high wall down onto the road. So a little bit of an odd thing. As I came through the double doors onto the grass, I looked to the side of me, and there were a bag, just a shopping bag, one of these, that you buy from supermarket, one of these old reusable ones, fabric ones, and it had got 3 bottles of wine in it and a load of onions. The weirdest thing about it was all these onions had got a bite taken out of them. So
it's weird, isn't it?
Very, very, but it sets the story off in your mind. It sets that scenario.
Yeah. What's going on here?
Yeah, I'd already got that feeling when I went into house. I'm thinking vampires already, and then when I came out and saw that confirmed it. I'm thinking, whoa,
hiding in onions.
Exactly. Have we got any more questions?
No, not yet. No.
It fascinates me. Does that subject? But again, it's on a tangent from paranormal, because these creatures, although they are basically zombies, they're the living dead. Oh,
you've got one from Eric here.
Okay.
He says, "Okay, Bryce, spending a week with you."
Well, there's a lot of different subjects that I'm into, isn't there? You know what I mean?
Oh,
I didn't just pick the one. I mean, I'm even, again, I'm into cryptids, but I'm always one of these skeptical believers.
Robert, be one of those French onion sellers testing his wares.
It could have been, but I never saw no striped shirt or
no.
Sleeves. So, yeah, or braces. It wouldn't look like that. Just this bag of onions and wine. It was quite expensive wine as well. But yeah, it's
Vivian. Just... Hello, Viv.
Evening, Viv. Nice to see you, love. Yeah, so I'm a skeptical believer in most things. I do believe in UFOs because I've seen things that I can't explain. I believe in cryptids because, again, I've seen things I can't explain.
Yeah.
I don't subscribe to some accounts that seem to be hysterical things, as it says, hysterical accounts.
Jill says, "Bless you both. I am off for now. Thank you." Bye-bye, Jill. Welcome. Back again and see us.
Yeah, join us again. Fridays and
look out for you.
Yeah. So yeah, I go on my own eyes. Obviously, I trust my own eyes. Well, I trust one of them. Minute, I can't see out the other one of me.
I think we all have our own favourite things though as well, don't we?
Yeah, we do. Definitely.
That we're really into. Yeah.
Definitely. But I don't know how long you've been there, Viv. Probably not long. But watch it on catch up because, as I say, it's a fascinating subject. It's one of these subjects that it's not paranormal, but it's not mainstream, is it? You know.
No. Something that catches the imagination, though, as well, doesn't it?
It borders a lot of things. It's not a cryptid, but is it? You know.
Exactly. Don't know.
Well, it can transform into. It's a shapeshifter. So, what category does it come into?
Yeah.
It's a category on its own. It seems. But it's got other contemporaries, hasn't it? It's like your werewolves.
Fits in all.
Yeah, werewolves and dogmen and what have you. They're related adversaries.
Yeah.
So
definitely, yeah.
And it's fascinating, really fascinating. Have you got any more accounts, Nettie, or is that it?
No, I think that's it. That's it.
Well, as I said, then Warren Percy, definitely take a look at it, because it's obviously, to say it's miles away, 3/4 of a mile from any major road or anything. It was last occupied in the 1600s, founded in 1300s, and in 2017 they are still doing surveys there. So there is something in there. There's something that
They won't be around there doing that, would they? No, they wouldn't.
Exactly. I was looking at it just to see if there were anything that I missed, and apparently there's also something that Mr. Frankish might like, because of late he's been studying a lot of them. There's an abandoned railway station, apparently. I've not seen any evidence of one personally, but if there's one in area, maybe that might be worth looking at as well.
Yeah.
It just surprised me that everything in that area seems to be abandoned. There's very little left. I think there's 2 farms in area, but there's not much evidence that they're doing all, because all these fields and hills and dales, they're just grass with sheep on. So I don't know what they're doing. It'd be interesting.
Yeah, what are they looking for?
Yeah, what they're farming, what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because apparently the big farms as well. If you Google them, they're a decent sized farm. They own a lot of area. Still seem to be out on it. So, but unlike a lot of places that are struggling to manage, their buildings seem to be quite well maintained as well. Which is, again, it's odd. Most farms today, you see that the house is quite good. They'll have a well-maintained barn, but there'll be up to several buildings that have gone out into disrepair.
Yeah, well, we've seen plenty of that, haven't we, on a trip round?
Yeah, definitely. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So it does make you wonder. I mean, these places traditionally would be ideal places for vampires to hang out.
Mm.
So who knows?
Who knows?
Now, maybe I'll start a new trend as vampire hunter. Yeah, I'll have to get a kit. They still sell them. Believe it or not, they still sell them.
They don't. They don't.
They do. Yeah, they do. They still sell kits, vampire kits, with a little bottle of holy water. What's that film now? There's a film shows you one of these kits. Oh, is it?
Yeah, right. Eric says he's in.
Hansel and Gretel. I think that's the film. Hansel and
Gretel.
Yeah, that's actually the latest one's a vampire film, believe it or not. It's nothing to do with the fable, Hansel and Gretel, to do with a witch.
Yeah.
In traditional Hansel and Gretel, it's a witch, isn't it? That there was him in to a home.
Yeah, well, that was the old story, wasn't it? Yeah.
To eat them, but the latest one, Hansel and Gretel, vampire slayers.
Yeah, yeah, they've gone up a bit, haven't they?
There's a kit on there, and it shows you a little handheld crossbow. It shows you stakes. It shows you a bottle of holy water. It shows you a bottle of garlic solution, and silver pointed bolts rather than silver bullets. Now, where that comes from, because that's a crossover for me from werewolves, isn't it?
Yeah.
But apparently it works for vampires as well in that film.
Yeah, definitely modernised that one.
Yeah, it sets them on fire, apparently. I don't know how that works, but it's surprising. It's surprising things cross over from film to reality. But as I say, with vampires, it does bear out from truth. They are true accounts. There is true accounts. We only hit on a couple, really. I thought we'd be able to spin it out, but we have spun it out. But later edition I think we'll do vampirism again and get some more accounts.
Yeah,
some more
because
true
it's
accounts.
absolutely huge.
Yeah, get some true accounts and some film versions that more or less mimic it. That'd
Yeah.
be interesting.
Yeah, put them together.
Yeah,
I do.
so I've done, and I think that's true of a lot of these paranormal things as well. They're born from true facts or true accounts, shall we say. The biggest problem is with paranormal is actual evidence. It's catching it on camera and one thing or another.
Yeah.
Whereas with vampires, with them coming from reality in that respect, and there's physical evidence. You can't trace a ghost back to a body in that respect unless there's a paper trail. But with vampires, there's that physical evidence, isn't there? You can trace it through fangs in a skull, stones in the mouth,
Stones in the
head
mouth. Yeah.
being
Chopped
decapitated.
off.
So
Yeah.
that's the paper trail there.
It's Charles. Hello,
Later.
hello, Charles.
You're a bit late, fella. You'll have to watch it on catch up. It's been quite a good one, really has. And I think this is another thing. We're going to have to reiterate this for everybody. A Sunday show is an hour earlier than a Friday show, and I think a lot of people are turning up expecting us to be on at 8, and we're not.
We're not.
But we're working on it. We're working. It's a work in progress. And I need to say thank you while we're here to everybody that joins us, because it's surprising us. We try to do our best on our shows and one thing or another, but when we look back at us as reviews and as what's that one?
That's Eric saying great show.
Thanks, Eric. It means a lot. It does mean a lot because, like I said, when we look back on the views that we're getting consistently over 1,000 views in 3 days, which for me, that's phenomenal. It's unheard of. So thank you for joining us and supporting us. It's brilliant.
Yeah, because without these people, we'd just be sat here talking to each other, wouldn't we?
Well, yeah, and
you're the people that make it. That's.
And then I'd end up tormenting you and calling you names and stuff.
Don't worry about it. Nothing I've not been called before. I can take it on the chin.
Can you? But yeah, it's all good. But on that note, we've managed. Don't know how, but we've managed an hour.
We have, and now.
Yes, go and give a shout out if you like.
We'd just like to thank Things for streaming our show and Simply Spooker, because without your network, we couldn't do it. And also, I'd like to shout out to the backroom staff as well, which never get mentioned on all the work that they do.
Yes.
As well as doing their own shows. And now we're going over to Simply Spooker, and you can come on, watch all the shows on Simply Spooker. And on a Monday, we have the Dark Mirror show with Josh, Wayne, and Mark. Tuesday, we have Simply Spooker, which is the Jar of Doom Day, and that's with various hosts now. Wednesday, we have Simply Spooker, and that's a guest with Dan, Viv, and Eric. Thursday is the Weird Show with Dan.
Weird
Tim,
Room.
The Weird Room. Not the Weird Show, the Weird Room. Smack it. The Weird Room. And Friday, we have our Freaky Friday. Come on, bring up a look. Saturday, we have Metaphysical Insights with William. And every Sunday, this show. Same time, 7 o'clock. So that's it for tonight, guys. And come along next week, and also come along and see all the other shows that people do as well.
Yep. Cheers, guys. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.